LG signature.
It embraces the harmony between
Art and technology.
LG.
I want to give massive thanks to all of my supporting members and patrons. Thank you all so very much. Hello, good evening and welcome to you all. Quite a nice little bunch in here already. A few hellos. Martin H, second best Bob, Arian Arhud. I never know how to say that, Arian, I do apologise. Demon Orb, Dogwalker, Judgmental Cat. I did see that earlier on Flatzoid FE was in. Hopefully he'll pop back. Flatzoid, there's an invite for you just up there at the top of the chat. It's also down there in the description. I'd like to get you on here. I do have another flat earther waiting in the waiting room. Mr. Carl Adams styles himself Professor Carl Adams at the Flat Earth Institute of Science. He's going to come on and we're going to chat about a couple of things. This is not a formal debate. I only asked him about an hour and a half ago and he's kind enough to agree to come on. So it's nice to get some differing views. Who else we got? Ivan James Hunt. Hello, Mohammed Shafiq and Sir Branson, superhero. Let's start early, he says. Oh, a bit late for that now. Sorry. I thought I'd start on time. And yeah, I did say Mr. Reynolds in the room. Only he's buggered off again. Never mind. I hope you're all doing well. And as I say below here, welcome to any of the new subs who have popped over from Simon down. Make yourself at home. I think you'll find it's a friendly place. If you do want to come on, again, the Discord link is in the description. You just go into the live waiting room. But right now, I will be talking with Kyle for a while first. And my aircon's just gone off, squeaking. So let's switch him off now, because... Go, get off. There we go. That's perfect timing. Past couple of hours, it's been fine. Decides to go squeaky now. Never mind. Yeah, so the cheese and wine is served in there. Colon's usually serving. Colon is my sort of lead Discord mod. And let's hope he's not wearing his little French maid's outfit tonight. Yeah, Flatswood FE earlier on, 722 said, I hope you've got more than the moon for tides. Lol. Well, I would like to talk to you about that, Flatsoid. Hopefully you'll come in. Hopefully. So exciting day. Collab with Simon Dan, no less. Yeah. Isn't he fortunate? And I hope I brought him a couple more subs. He needs them, doesn't he? He does need them. He's a nice bloke, but he needs the subs. And I was glad to help. Yeah. We'll talk about that in a little while. I do want to check one other thing first, though. Because I'm getting I'm more than perilously close. I'm on 11,001 subscribers. Oh yeah, 11,001. And Mrs. S did agree the celebration will be in order and she's approved the budget. Nice one, Mrs. S. Thanks. I feel better now. Yeah, 11,000 subs. We've done it. It still says 10.9 on mine, but I guess it can take a while to update. A madman asked, what's the flat earth explanation for tides then? Well, that is what I would have really liked to have heard from Flatzoid, as he mentioned something else and then wouldn't elaborate. But we'll talk about that in a while. As I said, I've got Kyle Adams. He will come on, but there's a couple of things we're going to be talking about. The tides, which Kyle did put a comment on. The fake papers and misinformation that was discussed on my part of the collab with Simon Dan, which Kyle's had a look at. We're not going to be talking COVID stroke vaccines directly, more about misinformation and unverified information. But also some more news has come to light, which I want to share with you all. And since Kyle has no knowledge about this at all, either way, he'd never heard of the thing. What's this? Oh, thank you, Mr. Andrew. That's a kind comment. And Mo as well. Thank you. Very impressed with Mr. Sensible's appearance on So Well Done, Mr. S. Made us all very proud. Well, I appreciate that. I really genuinely do. So this other thing, because Kyle had no knowledge of this project and never even heard of it, I'm not going to bring him on to talk about it because he wouldn't know what he's talking about. And that wouldn't be fair. But let me get this set up, because I think you're going to like this. I only heard this just a very short while ago. I think it was it Mr. 42 told me? Mr. 42, regular to this channel. He told me about this, and I'm sure he's going to do a video, so I'm stealing his thunder a bit, but oops, it's hot news. So let's get this. Oh, look, there's a mini me. Oh, there will be in a second, once I've got this all up. There we go. That's better. Force the line. Mr. Flatty McFlatface's project about proving the curve or flatness of the Earth using a fence, basically, that he was looking for £100,000 for, and he did a GoFundMe. Was a bit of news. Let's let him make sure I've got the audio switched on. Let's let him talk about this for a couple of minutes.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
Not the best news today. The GoFundMe's no more.
I'd say it's actually quite good news, Flatty.
I've had to close it down. It's been I wouldn't say nightmare, but it's been a pain since the start. It's been put on hold about 10 times. Don't know why that is, if somebody's been just trying to make it difficult for me, or if it's just a process that you go through with GoFundMe, I don't know. But they've had all my ID from me, they've had bank cards, everything.
Yeah, they want to check your ID. I'm going to skip it along a bit, get to some of the news about it.
£400,000.
Oh, that was the bit. Let me go back a bit. Go on in.
I don't know, it's just, it's not worth it, guys. I've spoke to an engineer. An engineer reckons it's going to cost £400,000.
Yeah, we told you it was not as simple as bolting a bunch of planks together. You would not have got any accuracy to do the job properly. Would have cost you an awful lot of money. If only you'd listened to us.
Plus the land to buy, a mile or 2 mile long piece of land. As I said from the start, I didn't want to set the bar too high because...
I don't think you could have set the bar much lower, mate. I do want to jump it on a bit, and I will jump to about halfway through his video because it's quite a long video, and if anyone wants to watch it, his channel, it's fair enough, shout him out, is Flatty McFlatface. Okay.
£500,000 or £600,000 target would have just sounded absurd, and I think even less people would have bothered. Some statistics: we raised £9,400 after fees,
which is incredible.
166 people donated, making an average of about £50 odd per person. But to be more exact, 165 people donated about 4.5 or 4.6, 4.7, and one person donated about 4.9 after fees.
So someone made a donation of basically £5,000.
So without that 166 person, it would have been under £5,000. And as I say, one person donated £5,000, and you've got fees to take off of that, which made it 4.8 or something, 4.9.
I'm going to jump it again.
So out of 2,000 subscribers is a small number, but when you throw in Eric Dubé's channel at 100,000 subscribers, Hibbler Productions' channel at 40,000, I think, or 40 odd thousand subscribers, and 100,000 subscribers, 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 Dell's channel of 22,000 subscribers, Daniel Pratt's channel, 700, 800 subscribers, and Globebusters, 3 channels, although they talked about it on the main channel. They've got 3, Globebusters 1 and 2, and their activism channel. In total, they've got about 75,000 subscribers.
So out of that lot, out of all those people, 165, was it 166 with your 5k man, felt it worthy to donate. That tells me that even a lot of idiots aren't idiots. I'm going to jump it forward. It's about 15 minutes in, because of course he explains that all this money's been paid to him. He can't refund it. What was it, GoFundMe or whatever, don't do that. And of course it'd be very difficult, to be fair, it would be very difficult logistically. How do you identify who has actually made donations? How do you refund them? That is a difficult thing. So I'll just let him talk a minute, because it's something that's quite interesting.
So I started the fundraiser, so the buck stops with me with regards to what do we do with the funds raised.
Party!
I've spoke to GoFundMe, and GoFundMe said that once the funds are released, and all the funds have been released to me, once the funds are released, they release them daily, weekly or monthly. Had it set up on weekly.
Get the money out quick.
The last payment last week. And they said that the funds cannot be returned to the donators once they've been released. The only way they would return them to the donators is if GoFundMe are down, or if I hadn't satisfied them. As I say, I chose to terminate the GoFundMe, and they're saying, well, that's fine. If you want to try and...
So he's basically got, I think, a little under 10 grand. What's he going to do with it?
And, how do I refund the money to 166 people if they can't prove to me that they actually donated in the first place?
I just thought, I actually made a secret donation of about £5,000, so take off the fees, that's only fair. So if you'd like to send me £4,900, Mr. McFlatface, I'd appreciate it. But no, of course, I can't prove it.
And there's an issue with sending bank details online. I wouldn't expect anyone to send me their bank details, and I don't want to send mine. So obviously the people that donated to the fundraiser donated to a cause. That cause isn't going to happen.
No.
So I decided to donate the funds to a cause of my choice. Now I thought about food banks, I thought about homeless charities, but I don't think there's a better charity than in the UK anyway, than the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Right, I'm going to stop it there. Mr. McFlatface, I think if that's what you do, that's probably the best you could do, and I would applaud that. For your own well-being, safety, and to save any accusation, I'm not going to throw any accusations, but to prevent that, I suggest you very carefully make sure you get a receipt to show that you have made that donation to that charity or whatever other registered charity I would recommend. And I'm going to say, good on you for that. I think the whole thing was a total joke without a hope of it working in the first place. And we told you about the technicalities that you'd have to overcome, which you ain't going to do for 100,000. But anyway, be that as it may. Yeah, that's the word, isn't it? The expression. Your GoFundMe has come to an end. You got that pot of money. If you give it to charity, I don't think there's any other way out of it for you. So I would say, yep, do that. Get a receipt. Anyone who's unhappy, well, perhaps they ought to be a little more careful in who they make donations to. So, I'm going to give you credit then, McFlatface. Do it. Get a receipt. I would do a video to show it just to prove it to anyone. I'm sure you will. And that's great. Okay, I'll leave it at that. So, let's switch that off. Let's switch Mini-Me off. Good night, Mini-Me. It might be back again because I got some super chats. Oh, by the way, Liam Wakefield last time super chatted £2 for the new shirt fund. Well, Liam, it's not exactly a new shirt, but it's a change of shirt. Anyone who doesn't understand that will have to watch my last stream. So let's just quickly call up these. I'll need to refresh that, won't I? Come on. What? What? What's that talking about? It's just said no super chats. Is there a problem with it? Purchase super. Or maybe it's the way I refreshed it. Yes, that was a bit weird. Right, a few super chats. Tim Tully, super chatted $5 US. Huzzah! Huzzah! On the 11,000. Thank you very much. Second best Bob, super chatted £11. Thank you, Bob. Thanks, Bob. One fine English pound per sub. Well, that means then, Bob, that you owe me 10,889, isn't it? But I tell you what, let's call it quits. Thank you very much, Bob. Oh, our second best Bob, super chat for £2 per 1,000. Okay, I should have read the small print. And Judy Bassett, super chat €11, €1 per sub. We'll take that as read per 1,000. Thank you, Judy. And Mitch Goldstein. Hello, good evening, Mitch. Super chat $5, 5 flat bucks from the Goldstein family. Well, thank you very much, sir. And I hope Julie's okay. Yeah. So I'm going to flick back. It's still show. Oh, I haven't. That was silly. I forgot to transition. Too many buttons in so little time. Yeah, Flatty McFlatface. Yet the whole thing was totally ridiculous. Should have been able to see that. Should have got some advice. I mean, he said he spoke to an engineer who said it will cost at least 400k. Why didn't you speak to that engineer in the first place? But we are where we are. You've got that money. So if you dispose of it in the way you have just suggested, I would say good on you. And I mean that honestly. I see there's another. Oh, pardon me, pepperoni pizza's a bit lively tonight. I see there's another couple of super chats coming in, so let's read those. Hope this thing isn't playing up. No, it's working now. Adam Lord, super chat £15. Thank you, Adam. Genuinely one of the kindest individuals in the debunking community. Love what you do, man. By the way, would you ever consider having the philosopher T-Jump on here? Yeah, I'd have T-Jump on here. Or I'd go on his channel. T-Jump, yeah. I've seen him a couple of times on Modern Day Debates. He's a bit laid back in that chair of his, isn't he? Yeah. And now Pinion super chatted 109 Swedish krona. This is 1 sec per sub. Fliff math. I like what you did there now. Right. Well, poor Mr. Kyle Adams is waiting there in the live waiting room, and I see there's a couple of our guys with him. So I hope they're just chatting nicely, not beating him to a pulp. I'm sure they are. But I'm going to get this set up. So Kyle has a sort of 30-second warning. Pizza after Sunday. Well, Brian, Mrs. S is still down in Cornwall. I've come home, and my culinary skills sort of pretty much extend to heating up a pizza. And that's probably about it. And what? Oh no, I haven't CGI'd a black shirt over the blue one. It's a green screen job, mate. Has Fail Zoid or Flat Zoid or any of those Zoids shown up? Not that I've seen. He's not in the waiting room. So please, if he does turn up, someone let me know. Try and make it obvious in the chat so I can see. Because I would like to talk to him. Because no, Mr. Dark Knight apologetics. I won't do a sex dance. I did one of those on I think it was my 3,000 sub channel. That's all old hat now. Okay, Kyle, I'm going to get you in, and apologies to the others sat there in the waiting room. It's pre-arranged with, well, only shortly, but pre-arranged with Kyle to get him on here. So let's do that. Hello, good evening, Kyle.
Hello.
Hello, hello, and how are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Yeah, not so bad, not so bad. And as I just said, I've just ticked over 11,000 subscribers just as this stream started. So happy for that. Hello?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I thought you cut out then. Oh no,
Sorry.
that's all right. That's all right. So I trust that you and your wife, who's been on your channel, hasn't she? Hope that you're all okay. Keeping well.
Yeah, doing all well. Doing
Good,
all
good.
well.
For those who don't know, this is Kyle Adams. I'll say Kyle Adams introduced himself as Professor Kyle Adams of the.
Sometimes.
I know. Sorry, I disagree about that, but
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm going to have to respect that. That's what you call yourself, and that's of the Flat Earth Institute of Science. That is the name of it, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So what have you been doing lately? Because we've not really tangled horns for a while, have we?
No, not really. It's been a while. So yeah, I've been doing all kinds of stuff. I've been doing a bunch of the fish tank laser experiments. That's been my big thing.
Okay.
Just really going out and doing a huge series on that. The whole purpose of the fish tank laser experiment was to show the effects of downward refraction over a flat plane.
And how did you get on with that?
Well, it was a really success. We were able to prove that downward refraction over a flat plane is going to cause a boat to appear to sink on the horizon.
Okay. Well, perhaps sometime I need to have a look at those videos because I did see you'd done them, and I remember you did drop me a message at one point, and I said I can't right now. I'll look at them, but I'll be honest.
I get it. Yeah, we're all busy. So.
Yes, I'll say. Yeah, I haven't got round to it, I'm afraid. And I've just been away for a few days, just down to Cornwall, which is in the southwest of the UK, and so I've not done any sort of full-on videos for a few days, and now I've got a set of shifts, so that's going to be fun trying to fit in some videos. But I did a short video while I was away, Kyle. I know you've seen it. It's only short, so let me replay it here for everyone, for anyone who might have missed it. It's only just over a minute long. So welcome to Westwood Ho in Devon. Lovely evening. And I was just thinking that if these rocks on the beach and all the water in the sea are down because of relative density, why on earth does the water try and rush up the beach? What's making it want to get higher? What's causing those waves? And why does this happen twice a day? That happens to tie up with the rotation of the Earth and the position of the Moon. Interesting questions for you relative densitists. Have fun and stay sensible. And that was it. I don't know if you got sound on that, Kyle. Probably not.
Nope.
No. Okay, so basically,
I remember
with the first two videos.
yeah, it's basically looking for an explanation for tides from flat earthers, primarily against the ones who sort of say it's relative density disequilibrium. Well, okay, let's say you've got relative density disequilibrium, so all the water's gone down, the rocks have gone down to the bottom of the water, and so on. Why is the water suddenly rushing up the beach? And you replied, and Flatsoid FE replied. Now, Flatsoid FE came up with something that, to be honest, I was rather surprised at. We asked him about 20 or 30 times to elaborate, and he just said, haha, you're busted. But he never elaborated, which is why I've issued an invite to him, and I hope he turns up. But you made a comment too, didn't you? And your comment was?
I don't remember right off the top of my head. I was hoping you had it there.
Well, I do remember it was
remember
something to do with the tides on each side of Australia, I think.
Yeah. I said that the tides are not caused by the moon. I said that if we look at the tides all the way around Australia, they're uneven. They're not all the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a picture of that? Of what the tidal range around Australia before?
What, range as in height or timings? Or both?
Both. Obviously, they're not at the same time, but the whole claim is that moon is causing the tides, and that's why the tides change over time. Does that make sense? And that's what the globe Earth claim is, but our claim is that it's not caused by the moon.
So
Otherwise,
I'd
all be equal. Does that make sense?
Well,
I'm
sorry, you're breaking up a little, Kyle. I don't know what.
Slow down a little bit. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I don't
Get
know
excited
I don't know what sort of connection you've got. Well, I am interested. I mean, people here, pretty much, I'm sure, know the reason for the tides being the gravitational pull of the moon. So when the moon lines up with the sun, you get spring tides because they're both pulling on the same side, or the moon's on the opposite side. And if the moon's sort of quarter way through its cycle, you get the neap tides because the moon's pulling one way and the sun's pulling a different way. So the high tide's not quite as high, the low tide's not quite as low as it is during spring tides. And it's basically the bulge of water is. The main bulge of water is pointing directly to and away from the moon, which is rotating over the period of roughly a month. And of course, the Earth is rotating beneath that water. So you get the tides rising and falling twice a day as you hit one bulge and then the other bulge with the low areas in between. I mean, that's basically it. So I'll be interested to know how it works on a flat Earth. Do you have any ideas or thoughts?
Oh, definitely. So, if tides were caused by the moon, then everywhere along the same latitude really would be same. As the moon passes over that area, it's going to affect all of the water the same on both sides of Australia. And so we have the eastern side and western side, and I would expect the tides or the tidal range to be exactly the same on the eastern side and the western side. But after we actually look at a diagram and show the documented tidal heights and how high and low the tide goes, not the same all the way around Australia.
Well, I mean, it's also going to be affected by the geography. For instance, on the south coast of the United Kingdom, we've got the Isle of Wight. And so I'm not sure there's other areas in the world like it, but Southampton, which is sort of, if you like, hidden behind the Isle of Wight, gets 4 tides a day because the high tide comes in and then it starts to go, but then it comes around the other side of the island. So you get a sort of like a double high tide, double low tide. So there are geographical or physical features that will affect it.
Okay, so I don't understand what physical features you're claiming that are going to cause the tides to rise 6 feet in one area and next to no tide on the same latitude. And so that kind of happens with the United States a little bit there, or on both sides of Mexico. Sorry, there's the east side of Mexico and the west side of Mexico, and they both have very different tidal levels.
Well, yeah, I mean, we got places like the Severn Estuary. I forget the exact. I know that there's another place in Canada or somewhere that has higher tidal ranges, but certainly it's a huge tidal range, sort of, I don't know, 15 feet. Someone will correct me, I'm sure. It's massive anyway. Because of the physical topography. If the seabed is deeper in an area, the water's going to move, I guess, slower, but it's going to be physical topography.
So
it's going to affect how the water flows.
Okay, so be clear. You're saying that tide is caused, or we have a bigger tide on shallow shores than deep shores?
Well,
or the other way around?
I'm not sure which way, but it's going to have an effect. Just like, waves get taller as they come into the shallows, don't they? Because when you're out at sea, for instance, a tsunami will rush across the ocean, but in the middle of the ocean, it will barely register any height difference at all as it passes. But as you come into the shallows, that tsunami wave gets taller and taller before it comes onto land. That's an extreme. It can have effect.
It's a good observation that we have different wave heights depending on different areas. Not everywhere experiences 10-foot waves, right?
No.
So I can't claim that those waves are being caused by the moon or anything like that. And the same thing. I can't claim that the tides are being caused by the moon. There's not enough connections to cause to say one is causing the other. Does that make sense?
Well, waves, no, because I mean things like just winds and that will also affect the amount of waves. You think of a storm, that's not a sudden change in the moon. That's changes in the weather, so that will cause the winds can whip the water up. But what we're talking about with tides, we're talking about something that's pretty much clockwork, because the moon doesn't, or we don't rotate exactly 24 hours. So each day the high and the low tides move several minutes, don't they? But basically, if you had a high tide at midday, you're going to get another high tide roughly midnight, roughly 12 hours later, when you're on the other side, when the Earth is rotated by 180 degrees.
Uh-huh. And so one thing that we can really take into consideration here is just temperature. About how when things get warm, they expand, and when things get cold, they tend to shrink. And so that can definitely have an effect on water, which is what our tides is all about. And as the sun moves throughout the sky, water temperatures are going to change depending on those factors. Does that make sense?
Of course, water can heat up, water can cool down. When it heats, it expands. But we're talking about oceans. You think of all the global warming we're talking about, and we're talking about ocean temperature changes of a tiny amount. So, and an ocean is...
I'm just talking about throughout one day.
Yeah,
one day.
Well, with the amount of expansion you'll get on that ocean in one day is virtually going to be nothing. The ocean is, you must have heard of it being like a heat sink. That's one of the concerns. We're getting all this global warming and people saying, well, the temperature hasn't risen that much. Well, actually, a lot of it's gone into the ocean depths and it's slowly building up. It takes years and years and years. I mean, at the bottom of deep oceans, the temperature, is it actually sub-zero? I'm not sure it's sub-zero, but it's certainly down near zero. It's perishingly cold. It never warms up. And you've got so much water, the temperature barely changes. You think of coral reefs. Now, coral reefs is something I'm really interested in. I don't know if you know, but I keep marine fish in a tank, and I did have some corals, although I've lost them due to an issue. But yeah, the corals have to be kept in a very stable environment with regard to pollution, temperature, lighting, and so on. And I mean, the temperatures in the ocean barely change. I mean, we're getting these bleaching events around Australia and the Great Barrier Reef because the temperature's gone up. But we're not talking much. It's not like it's gone up 10 degrees or something. It may have gone up a degree or two, as a swell of warmer water comes by, and that's enough to harm the corals.
So summing up what you're saying here is, even though we have daytime and nighttime, it's really, we can see a really significant difference on the land. You're saying you're not going to see a significant difference in the water between daytime temperatures and nighttime temperatures.
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, the UK relies on that. We're surrounded by the Gulf Stream drift comes from the Gulf of Mexico across the Atlantic and then passes, I think it passes mainly to the north, but a bit comes to the south of the UK. And coastal areas don't have such extremes of temperature because that acts as a dampener. Actually, it acts quite dampening all over with a lot of rain, but it acts as a dampener. You think of the places like the centre of Europe, their summer temperatures are much hotter than ours. Their winter temperatures are much colder. We are evened out. It keeps us that bit warmer in the winter, and it prevents some of the excess heat in the summer because we're surrounded by what would then be comparatively cool ocean.
So you're saying the ocean doesn't warm up during the daytime or cool off during the nighttime. Okay.
Well, there may be a slight rise in the surface temperature, but that's going to get mixed in that. But overall, you're not really going to... Over months, you're going to get a slight rise in things like the English Channel, where we've got a few UK coastal holiday places. Yeah, the sea will be a bit warmer in the summer than it is in the winter, but it will still generally be pretty damn cold. Too cold for me, anyway.
Okay, so my point was that you're talking about clockwork, right? We're talking about every single day we're seeing major changes in the ocean with sea levels rising and falling, and that's what our tides are.
Yep.
It's just the sea levels rising and falling, and I'm saying, okay, well, something else that's really clockwork is just the changing temperature from the sun. When it's over there, when the sun's over the water's going to warm up because of the sun, and when the sun goes away, it's going to cool off because we're taking that heat source away. And so because that happens every single day, we're going to see those fluctuations every single day.
No,
and that's what's going to cause...
We can predict those, and they happen to come in a cycle which matches the cycle of the moon. You'd have to explain that away. So basically, roughly every 2 weeks, or you get a spring tide. Roughly 2 weeks later, you get neap tide. Roughly 2 weeks later, you get another spring tide. Roughly 2 weeks later, you get another neap tide. Then you're back again when you get the next new moon. It ties up. Yes, it's clockwork, and it follows the clockwork motions of the moon.
Okay.
So if it's a coincidence, it's a damn good one.
Okay, I understand that. And that's where a lot of people like to look into like the electromagnetic forces that are taking place within the Earth. And the major point that the flat earthers make, myself included, is tidal nodes. I don't know if you've ever heard of tidal node before.
I have. I'm not... First of all, I do apologise. The squeaking from my aircon. I've got to put it on for a while because it's really warming up in here quickly. Sorry, I'll turn it off as soon as I can. Yes, I have. I believe that is that areas that maybe have excessive high tides, or even no or lower amounts of tides. Is that what we're talking about?
Tidal nodes? Yeah, I've got a map here. I'm not sure if I can share it with you of tidal nodes. Let me see if I can send it to you. Okay, I just sent you this map of tidal nodes, so you can
let's see if that's something
what we're talking about.
Yeah, let's see if I can pull that up onto the screen. There we go. That was quick and easy. I've got it on the screen. Your tidal nodes. Let me just... There we go. Oh, there we are. Excuse me.
So you can see with this, you have a wide variety of... We've got Australia right there, and we've got some really severe tides way up there on the north, and then we've got much lower tides way down and on the southwest side of Australia.
Right.
Then you can go over there and look at Mexico, and you can see part of Mexico is in the green, and then the other half is in the blue. And so I'm not seeing any kind of correlation between these tidal nodes and the moon. Does that make sense?
No, but those tidal nodes, aren't they there all the time? So, I mean, you still get... I mean, looking down, let's say, the west coast of South America. So at the very, very top, you've got a red area, and then it goes down to, on a bit colourblind, through yellows, greens to blue, back to green, so on. You're still going to get high tides and low tides across all of there. It's just, isn't it, the variation of the tides, the difference between high and low. And you've got to take into account things like, where is the continental shelf? You know what I mean? What's the underwater topography like? And you're also going to get effects because of literally those land masses being in the way of the motion of the... I just realised, this is up on screen, isn't it, for everyone to see? Yes, it is. The motion, as the Earth rotates under that bulge caused by the moon, those land masses are going to get in the way. So that's going to affect things. I'll be honest, perhaps that's something I need to look into more. So, yeah, I knew what they were, but I don't know that much about them.
Yeah, that's something I'd definitely like to talk more about. It's something I'm really curious about, and yeah,
okay.
I'm still learning about it, so it'll be good.
Well, not him. Let's get rid of him. I had just shown this. I don't know if this this should appear on your screen now, Kyle. I believe it will do. Yeah, so you've got the moon pulling the bulge, in effect, of water. I'll let this play. I've got the sound off. I've probably have to skip it along a bit. But you also get the Earth being pulled towards the moon. And so you basically get a bigger bulge on the side that the moon's on than the other side. And there you are through 24-hour day and night. You experience low tide, high tide, low tide, high tide, low tide. So that
What's causing the high tide on the opposite side of the Earth from the moon?
What's the war? Oh, I know. That's the most unintuitive part of it. Let me just go back again. Actually, let me see if we can hear their explanation just for that bit. Hold on. Oh, you're not going to hear it, are you?
The pull on the near side ocean.
So you've got the pull on the near side from the moon, which is quite obvious.
So it moves most towards the moon. The Earth also
the Earth being pulled towards the moon,
but not so much as it's further away. Finally, the far side ocean moves towards the moon.
The moon is making the Earth wobble in its trajectory around the sun. Is that what it's claiming here?
No, I
can't hear what they're saying, so
I know. No, the ocean on the moon side is being pulled towards the moon. The Earth is being pulled towards the moon a bit. It's further away, but and the
water's getting left behind on the other side.
Well, in effect, but when you say, I mean, this is grossly out of scale. If that was to scale, you wouldn't see any blue. Obviously, we're talking because you think of the diameter of the Earth, and we're talking about tides being, a matter of a few meters. So it's minuscule. This is grossly exaggerated, just so that you can see it all. So as the Earth's rotating, someone stood in one place at the coast will experience high tides, low tides, high tides. So you get too high and too low twice a day.
The moon is grabbing the Earth itself, but it can't grab that water on the other side of the Earth, so it's kind of getting left behind, and that's creating the high tide.
Well, the Earth and everything on it is orbiting around a centre point. You take the mass of the Earth, the mass of the moon, swing them around. The centre point, that's called the barycenter. So it doesn't orbit around a point exactly halfway in between. And think of a hammer thrower. If you think of a hammer thrower, when they're spinning around to make an Olympic throw, their body's wobbling as well, isn't it? It's not just the hammer going around them. They're going slightly around the hammer. That's how it is with the Earth. So the moon is basically going around us, but we're also going around the moon a bit. So you can imagine... somewhere just inside the surface of the Earth, that would be the balance point between the two of them, and that's the point where orbiting.
Heaviest part, yeah.
Yeah, so it's and that's called the barycenter. So I'll let it play on. Now I've not got the sound on for me either, so it's just bringing in the fact that there's the sun as well, and if that's on the same side, i.e. a new moon, what you've got is, let's speed him along a bit. Oh, it's just showing you. Let me carry on. It spins around a bit. Right, here we go. So you've got the moon pulling and the sun pulling on the same side. So the tide there will be at its absolute highest. That's a spring tide. There you go. Remember, as I said, this is all grossly out of scale, because there was someone who commented and said, oh, well, if that's the way it works, all the surface should be covered in water. Well, no, because that bulge is no higher than the maximum.
It's relaying a concept. It's not meant to be taken literally. I get it.
Yeah, well, not at that scale. So it is literally how it works, but not at that scale. And so there you go.
Relaying a concept of. Yeah.
Right. So here you go. When you've got a quarter moon, you've got the moon pulling. Let's. Probably best for me just to pause it. Or did it? I thought it showed it. Come on, play. Oh, right, there. So you've got the moon pulling the water towards it. The sun's pulling at the side as well. So some of it actually... It pulls on... There we go. It pulls on the side, if you like. So the high tide towards the moon is not quite as high as it would have been. The low tide towards the sun is a little higher than it would have been. So that's your neap tides. But this is also very well understood. It ties up exactly. We can predict. You get almanacs to predict the exact times of high tides, low tides, spring tides, and so on to the minute.
Right. Just because we can predict something doesn't mean that that's what the cause is.
No,
I think I've talked with you about this before. I told you the whole Bigfoot situation. I'm sure it's humorous, so I don't know. If you repeat it or not.
I think you're right. Thing is, just because you can predict something doesn't mean that that's the cause. But what it does mean is that our understanding, which would produce that prediction, does not contradict reality. So we have our. Actually, I wish that Mitchell from Australia was watching. We have our hypothesis that the moon is pulling the oceans, and we're spinning around underneath. That's our hypothesis. So we make a prediction. That is that if it's going to be a quarter moon tomorrow at 12 minutes past 7, that there'll be the high tide at 12 minutes past 7. We run an experiment. We nip down to the coast and have a look, and at 12 minutes past 7 we get the highest tide, which means that our experiment is a success. Our hypothesis has not been overturned. Still could be wrong, but it meets the predictions.
We're just making predictions, but we're not really proving that the cause is this in the prediction. Does that
Science
make sense?
doesn't prove that, does it? You could say, okay, let's say you've got another hypothesis that it's temperatures. So I would predict that if it was temperatures, that in the winter, where you get months of cold weather, your tides due to the oceans, what's the word? The contraction of the seawater due to temperature drops, the tides would not be so high, and they would always be higher in the summer due to the warmer water. But in fact, that doesn't hold true. The tides can be as high or as low at any time of the year. So therefore, that would mean that your prediction's wrong. So again, that wouldn't mean your hypothesis was wrong, but you're going to have to find another way of showing it, because certainly that prediction didn't hold out. Because that would mean you're never. Sorry, go on, carry on.
I'm still kind of thinking that one through here on the. You're saying that if that's. You're saying that if it's wintertime, the tides would be different than in the summertime. Well, if the hypothesis was true.
Well, you think about it. If you were talking about the fact that you said it's warm in the daytime, so is it that the sea temperature warms up, water expands, you get a high tide? By following that logic, then in the midst of winter, tides would be lower. But they're not.
Is the sun disappeared? So this whole hypothesis here that I've just presented is saying that the tides could be caused by the sun.
What, as in the temperatures caused by the sun? Is that what you're talking about?
This whole hypothesis is that the tides could be caused by the sun, because the sun is a source of heat. That's what's causing the ocean to expand and also shrink.
But if you're saying that it could be because of the sun as a source of heat, what I'm saying is, okay, at times when the sun is not providing much heat, as in the winter, as you go further north and further south, then your tides are going to be lower. But they could be much higher, even with colder water, just depending on. I mean, you came up. You had your. Let me just go back to it. That nodes diagram. So that's heights, isn't it? You've got
height of the tide. Yes.
Yeah. Well, where are we? Looking. I don't know if you. No, you can't see where my mouse is. On the left-hand side, we've got we got. Is it Madagascar? Down by the east coast of Africa. Is that Madagascar? I think so. You've got a nice red area there on the left.
Madagascar is a big island next to Africa.
Yes, yeah. So you've got a big red area there. But now look, North America, Canada, you've got a fairly red area right up there. That's going to be much colder up there, the water. And then if you look over by Britain, the Bay of Biscay, south of Britain, just north of Spain, you've got a very dark area, very big tides. But we're further away from the equator, where you tend to get pretty much warm weather all year round. So you would expect the band with the darker colours to be generally, not exclusively, but generally across the equator line, with the lower, bluer areas being to the north and south. But you've got blue
and I think that would be kind of the same thing with the moon. So what you're presenting here is the same problem that I just presented with the moon. But you're saying that, one would expect them to be the same. So you've just made the same argument I made against the globe Earth, and you're applying it to me with the sun. And I can say that's a very valid point, and that's why most flat earthers point at the tidal nodes and say it's probably underwater fountains or something that kind of like geysers. We see that continually goes up and then it comes down. And so there could be underwater fountains that that swallow the water and then they spit it back out, just depending on the day.
Okay,
that could be caused by electromagnetic forces that have something to do with other things going on in the world.
Well, that's a hypothesis. You're going to need to make a prediction of what that would entail, and then go out and look for it. Because if you have a look, now this is with regard to flatzoid rather than anything you said, but it's quite interesting. This is the general ocean currents. It doesn't. If I flick between the two, it doesn't match up with those nodal points. What we've got is currents where we got warm water flowing from one location to another. As it cools down, it drops. The same with cool flows. For instance, that long Antarctic circumpolar current, which goes right across the bottom. It keeps somehow circling Antarctica. Yeah.
Well, I look at right there, the warm current right there above Madagascar, as you pointed out. It's like right in that area.
Yes.
Of the tidal node, the red area.
Okay.
But I'm not seeing the same thing over here in North America, up by Alaska. I guess there is kind of a bit of red zone there, but it's not quite the same.
No. But what you'd also have, obviously temperature changes all the time, day in, day out, all year round. You know that generally temperatures will be warmer in the summer in the north and cooler in the winter, but that doesn't hold true all the time. But what does hold true is that moon cycling once every lunar cycle, and our tides are affected, that we get the highest tides when it's a new moon, we get high tides as well when it's a full moon, and we get the neap tides, the lower ones, when it's at the first and last quarter, like clockwork, month in, month out, year in, year out. And because you know where the moon is, you can predict what those tides are. As you said, that making a prediction doesn't prove it, but what it does mean is that as our prediction is based on the position of the moon and sun, and the predictions come up with the correct results, then it's damn good evidence for it. You could look for other evidence.
There's that phrase, correlation doesn't equal causation.
No, that's right. And because you said earlier on it doesn't prove it. Absolutely, because science doesn't prove. It comes up with an explanation. Yeah, it's perfectly valid to say, could it be temperatures? Could it be geysers? Could it be the moon? Could it be the price of cheese on the open market? You could come up with anything. So then you devise, you make predictions. Well, I predict if cheese goes up by 10%, then the tide's going to get higher. Oh dear, it has, and they haven't got any higher. It looks like the price of cheese doesn't affect the tide. The temperatures, well, you need to test that. But certainly with the predictions based on the moon, they hold true. It could still be wrong. There could still be a better explanation, but we've known about
I
it for a
like
long.
the ocean current map. I think he was onto something there, and yeah, I'd like to study that more
Well, that
thoroughly. I haven't made a video on specifically on tides yet, but that's definitely something I'd like to do in the future as I study more into this stuff.
Yeah, it is interesting. It is interesting. But you see, what he was talking about, actually, I should be able to.
I'd like to study the connection between the ocean currents and the tidal nodes, and kind of
Right. Well, that might be interesting.
find out what the connection is between the two.
So that's the general ocean currents, the warm and the cool currents. But what Flatsoid said, and he hasn't. Let me just check. He hasn't come in, has he, guys? Has Flatsoid come in? Because I did want him to. It's only fair to let him defend himself. I can't see him in the waiting room. Okay. He mentioned when I showed my video. Sorry, I'm just adjusting screens here. I showed my video with the tide, saying, "Come on, flat earthers, explain it's not relative density," and he talked about what is it? Gosh, I can't think of the word now. Thermal haline circulation currents. That's these ones. You can see it already.
No, it's just heat, and so now we're getting back into the whole sun thing, the whole warming and cooling of the ocean.
But those,
so even in the wintertime, we still get ocean currents, and ocean currents are still caused by this warming and cooling of the ocean, as well as wind, and the wind is also caused by temperature.
But the thing, I mean, that is true. We get the Gulf Stream all year round, so that's what helps keep the UK that little bit warmer than it may have been in the winter if we didn't have it. And that's one of the fears. If the Gulf Stream drift switches off, then the UK will end up with more continental climate. Yes, it'll be hotter in the summers, but it'll be damn sight colder in the winters. But with regard to tides, those streams, especially, I mean, you can see the Gulf Stream drift when it comes round. They're constant, day in, day out, all year round, 24 hours a day. So it's not going to be it's not a tidal mechanism. If it was a tidal mechanism, then something would be having to change twice a day to give us tides twice a day.
Sorry, you kind of lost me a little bit on that one.
Well,
about.
Well, look, what you can see right now is you in the red, you can see those are warm currents travelling around the oceans, and lower down, because they tend to sink, you've got some blue paths. Those are the cool currents flowing around. And that enables transportation.
Kind of makes it look like the currents are always the same speed no matter the time of the day. Is that true or false? I don't know.
That's true. Why would it change? There's nothing to cause them to speed up or slow down.
The thing that's causing the currents, maybe it's just kind of an average because of the average temperature. Maybe that's what's going on here. But as I was understanding is the currents were a large portion of that was attributed to the temperature of the ocean. That's why we see a warm current and a cold current. And
yes,
it's kind of like air currents.
It's transporting ocean heat. For instance, that Gulf Stream drift coming up from the Gulf of Mexico, where there's a lot of warming because there's lots of hot weather. It travels across the Atlantic, cooling all the time, coming past the UK, and gradually, as it cools off so much, it will sink because it's colder, and then it gets drawn back again along one of those blue paths. It's basically
so it's pretty constant, even though the source of the heat is changing every single day.
The source of the heat being the sun is always shining somewhere on that globe, and
it's always shining somewhere. But if we're talking about one specific point, it's continually changing because the sun's moving.
Okay, let's be clear. Where the sun passes, let's say it's at the equator, and it passes across the Pacific Ocean, you are not going to get a superheated path of water, because that water is such a vast amount. It's averaging. It takes years and years and years and years to change the temperature.
So it's going to take years and years and years and years in order to get that water to move?
Well,
Because that's what's
and to get it to
change in
slow down.
temperature is what's causing the water to move in the first
Partly,
place.
but it's changing temperature and changing density. So areas of higher and lower salinity, that's another concern, you see, with the melting of the ice cap. That's fresh water. So that changes the salinity, and that, for the UK, could be a problem if that change of salinity diverts or stops the Gulf Stream drift, because the salinity of the water has changed.
Always complaining, oh, there's a shortage on fresh water in the world. Oh, wait, we've got too much fresh water in the world.
Yeah, well, that's all sort of locked up in the ice, isn't it?
Well, that's not quite the case anymore.
Well, sorry, I'm just going to switch that back off. What am I doing? Turn that off, turn that off, and turn that off. There we go, back to normal. Whew. Actually, Carl, just 1 second, because I've been chatting to you, which has been very pleasant, but I've not. I do need to check to see if I've got any super chats. No super chats to read. I did warn Kyle that I'll speak to him nice and friendly, and that, as we always do, because Kyle always speaks nice and friendly to me. But that I can't vouch for any super chats which come in, and any super chats which come in, I'll read to Kyle as long as they're not just abusive ones. I'm sure you guys wouldn't do that anyway, but I just want to give a heads up on that. Right, so we've got a couple people. Oh, Kyle, are we still in here?
I'm here.
Oh yeah, sorry, I just lost you off the bottom there. I'm going to get a couple people in, if you're okay, just to talk about it. Although we haven't talked about, perhaps we can briefly talk about this document that I went through on Simon Dan. I know you've. I don't think you were able to watch the whole Simon Dan, but you watched my portion of it, didn't you? Hello? Oh, right, yeah. Okay, so, oh, crumbs, let's switch that back on. That. Oh, come on. No, not that. What a palaver. There we are. Yes, it was this so-called Slovakian confirmation of genocide thing. As I said, I'm not today with Kyle interested in arguing the toss over COVID and vaccines in general. It was more people trusting unsourced documents on the internet, and I just wondered what you thought of that, Kyle.
Well, I think everyone is really susceptible to confirmation bias, and so whether it's globe earthers, the moment NASA publishes something, even without sourcing anything of what they said, people automatically jump into, oh, I believe that because NASA said so. And so I think a lot of flat earthers can end up doing that same thing with a lot of other flat earth channels. And so, oh, well, so-and-so said so, so I believe it. And everyone kind of ends up falling guilty of this at some point in time or another.
Well, see, my concern is, this document, all these photos, do you know what they look like? Because I actually took each one of these images and tried to enter them in a reverse lookup to find the source or other locations where the images are mentioned. And the images I took, I couldn't find anywhere else. Well, someone commented, these all got these strong wire patterns, that sort of interference.
Looks kind of like a screen.
Yeah, it looks like someone's taken a photo of something on a screen. So those could be images of virtually anything. I mean, some of those look like snowflakes, but then taken on the screen and through some sort of grayscale. I don't know if they've done any actual processing to them, but they don't.
The whole paper, it's just very vague, and it's too vague to give it any kind of credibility.
Absolutely. Yeah. No,
I can't take it seriously whatsoever.
Well, I'm really, really glad you said that, because I mean, people can have their views. They can argue the toss based on evidence, but this isn't evidence. This is some sort of made-up propaganda by someone. And I'll be honest, if it was some made-up stuff about flat Earth, it doesn't really affect us in real life at all. But the problem is this: being that it's to do with COVID and vaccines, and this is actually fear-mongering, basically implying that people are being controlled by some DARPA project, that scares people. And whether you as an individual decide to take a vaccine or not, that should be based on the real evidence, not this sort of crap.
And so when we talk about this whole confirmation bias, we see the same thing with people jumping up to go take the vaccine. Oh, well, the government said it's okay, so I'm just going to do it. And they don't look into anything about how it's made. They don't think about any kind of the vaccine injuries that have taken place from it. They don't know how many people have died after taking the vaccine. They don't know any of that. They just go out and said, I don't know what's in it, just inject it into me.
Can I ask you,
so
Carl?
that's a big problem.
Carl, do you take the flu vaccine?
Oh.
You don't. Do you? You don't. By the way, you don't have to answer these quick. Do you take any vaccines at all?
No.
You don't. None at all. So,
used to, but that was before I knew better. That was before I had my
I was going to say
experience and actually started studying into what was in the vaccines. And when I started studying into that from the official sources, going straight to
like what? Because I know that there are a lot of people who have an issue with the embryonic stem cell line, which, to be honest, I guess some people just because of what that is, some people based on religious reasons. But what is it that's in vaccines in general, not the COVID one, just in general, that makes you nervous of taking them then?
Aborted fetal cells have been a big concern for me. The use of mercury and some of them have been a concern for me.
Okay, the aborted fetus cell thing. Is that based on your sort of personal religious beliefs then?
I suppose so. Yeah, I don't really support the use of injecting. Oh, I don't know. Well, that's kind of a weird thing for me.
Okay, I mean,
it's just kind of an odd thing. I wouldn't really feel comfortable about doing that. Okay. That's really I can't say there's anything really. I can't pinpoint any dangerous thing. It's just something that seems really bizarre to me. I don't want to put that into my body, kind of a thing. I can't say that eating jerky is going to be bad for me, or I can't say how taking pig fat and injecting that into my blood is going to be bad for me. Does that make sense? And so there's a lot of things that
I'm going to have to be careful because
I'm going to
have to be careful because much as I would pick you up on taking stuff on very weak evidence, I don't feel happy about talking about stuff I don't really fully understand. I get that. Probably, yeah, thank you. I mean, the business about embryonic stem cells, I mean, we're talking about a cell line. So, there were aborted fetuses. I think it was back in the 60s, wasn't it? There was a small number of them. And these are cells grown from cells grown from cells. But I don't think you're actually injecting yourself with those anyway. I think they're used to something in the growing of the vaccine. But I have very little knowledge, so I it's probably best I don't speak on that. You mentioned a couple of other things. You mentioned the pig fat, which of course was a bit of a scare for many.
It was just a random example.
Yeah, but that was a scare factor for many Muslims. Obviously, that wouldn't be what's the word? Is it? It would be haram for them. I think that's the word. Basically, they wouldn't be able to take that. However, there is no pig fat or pig products in the COVID vaccine. I can't speak on the
I wonder how Muslims deal with any kind of insulin, because
isn't insulin isn't that based on sheep? I thought it was based on sheep.
I guess they could make I don't know. I've heard a lot of different things about that one. I don't know enough about it. I thought they put it into like cows and sheep and pigs, and I don't know.
No, not do I. So perhaps from both sides,
that's kind of part of the thing. It's the whole thing about ever since learning about how much I don't know about it doesn't really give me a whole lot of trust with that. Does that make sense? The government has too many issues of just lying to our face, and so I have a hard time just trusting it because of that whole distrust with the government.
Well, a couple of things. Mohammed Shafiq actually confirmed, haram is the word about Muslims and pork products. And Mandelbrot said, and actually it'd be nice to know, Mandelbrot, why you know this for a fact. He says, I know for a fact that no American vaccine has fetal cells or mercury in it. I did actually mention in my Simon Dan collab about this document, just as an aside, because I know that a lot of people are concerned about mercury. What was it called? Thimerosal or whatever. But there is none in it. And I believe
right there on the label. I went and looked up the tetanus shot myself and found out that the tetanus shot has it, and it's listed.
Thimerosal. Yeah, but I'm talking about the
COVID
vaccine.
I'm talking about aborted fetal cells.
Oh, I see.
Aborted fetal cells are specifically in the tetanus shot. It's also in, I think, the rubella shot and a lot of the ones that they give babies.
Right. Well, I have no knowledge about how it is in America, so I can't comment.
Also in
and I don't know why and what Mandelbrot bases that on. I'm sure he's not lying. He may or may not be mistaken, but I'm sure he's not lying. But yes, the thimerosal, the ethyl mercury, is definitely not in the COVID vaccines. And also, as an aside, there is no COVID in
Never
it.
claimed it was in the COVID vaccine.
No, I didn't say you would, but and I did that as an extra thing because I know that many people say, "Oh, it's got aluminium in it. Oh, it's got mercury in it." Well, it hasn't. It hasn't.
That's where it's just. I'm all for people making educated decisions about what they do.
Well, that's all very well, though, Cole. But what they've got to do is they've got to have a source for information. That's the problem. This document, which is punted all over the internet, it's all over the place. Nowhere that I could find claimed or linked somewhere as a source, other than that to that Goloka site that I mentioned, which I believe is a Hare Krishna thing. So I don't know if this guy, as an individual, that bloke Sri Visramati, if it's his personal thing, but there was pages on there about flat Earth, and it did mention vaccines, which, to be honest, I don't think is something. I know very little about Hare Krishna as well, but I don't quite see what the connection is there, other than, and I'll be honest, Kyle, as soon as I saw flat Earth, I'm thinking, oh dear, we've got conspiracy people who are willing to believe stuff without evidence. And whatever you say about flat Earth, this guy is pushing this with no evidence. There's no links to medical studies or anything. There's no citations for the photographs. We don't know where they came from. The hospital, or alleged hospital, is not named. There is nothing that you or I could go and check up on. Do you know what I mean? I could have just made all this up and sent it to you. Or you could have made this up and sent it to me.
Yeah, and that's the big problem with it. Is
definitely.
Yeah, there's no verification with anything, and so that's the biggest concern.
Yeah,
and that's why I liked. I was listening to the radio the other day, and they're talking about the number of people who have died from taking the COVID vaccine. I had a good laugh out of that one because before they were putting all these numbers into people who have died from COVID itself. And they were inflating those numbers by including a bunch of people who died in car accidents. And all of a sudden now we've got a whole bunch of people who are dying after getting the vaccine. It's like, oh, well, you've got a double-sided knife here. I mean, now we can inflate the numbers of people, how many people have died from the COVID vaccine as they did from people.
I would suggest, Kyle, right? I mean, I asked, I point you towards that Simon Dan video, but said specifically my part about this document. It starts at about 11 minutes in, and you've watched that, and that's this document we've been looking at here. Now, Dan, his portion of the collaboration was talking about recorded deaths and side effects and things like that. So I would suggest that you watch the first half of the video, which is just Dan, because he does address that. Before we get into it, though, I have got a few super chats I'd just like to read. Paul Camish, super chat, £5. There is an 800-year lag in sea temperature, which sounds about right to me. So there you go, Kyle. You know, you get a couple of hot days, maybe a hot July. That's not going to change the temperature of the sea. Years and years and years. Hence all this the whole business of the COVID warming,
So
global
he's saying
warming. Yeah, well, global warming
saying
is
that the temperature of the sea from 800 years ago change is caused the whole current today.
well, no, it's saying changes in the climate take hundreds of years to change the temperature of the oceans. It's a vast heat sink. You think if you get a big block of ice, if you run a cigarette lighter under it, you've warmed a tiny bit of that, but that heat just disperses amongst the ice, and basically
so
your block
I
of
think he's
ice is
talking
still a
about-
big block of ice.
I think he's talking about average sea temperatures, and so that means the sea temperature can definitely change every single day depending on where the sun is during the day, just like the air. The average sea temperature, and so right now all of the United States is baking right now because of the average air temperature is changing.
Yes, because
Does that make sense?
air changes temperature very quickly.
Yeah.
So
There's a difference between average and just daily, and I'm talking about the daily, not the average. That's what's causing the
here you
ocean
go.
currents.
Data from the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, shows that the average global sea surface temperature, so we're not talking about in the deeps, but the surface temperature, she says the temperature in the upper few metres of the ocean has increased by approximately 0.13 degrees centigrade per decade over 100 years. So that's 1.3 degrees centigrade, and it's taken 100 years. So the fact
So
you
that's
get
average, and so it can still change every single day, but it's not changing on the average, except for, as you said, decade.
the point, if you get a hot period, that heat is going into the ocean, but it's dispersing. So you take that warmer bit of water, it disperses amongst the rest, and then you won't notice the difference. So to all intents and purposes, the temperature hasn't changed. It has, but in this case, it's saying it takes 10 years to rise 0.13. It's tiny. I do want to read the rest. It's actually a question or a point for you, I think, Kyle. Going back to tides, a madman has super chatted £5 and is asking, how strong is the electromagnetic force causing the tides? I'm not sure if you put that forward as a serious suggestion or just something to throw in the mix.
I don't know, but it's something I'd like to look into. That's for sure.
Okay. Someone called No Name super chatted $5 US. Here is money to call Carl an idiot for me while making a pithy cheddar reference. Well, thank you for that, No Name. I don't expect Kyle to respond, but thank you for that. And Adam Lord super chatted £5. Based on Professor Dave's explanation, ethyl mercury has mercury in it, but it behaves differently since it's a compound. From what I know, and I'm not a chemist, yes, ethyl mercury is not the same as the mercuries that do you lots of harm. And as someone else said, you're going to get more from eating fish than you are from a vaccine, if the vaccine uses it. And as I checked, Oxford AstraZeneca and Pfizer-BioNTech, those two vaccines do not use it. I don't know about the others. I didn't check them. Sorry?
Said good for them. I'm always happy when people are not putting dangerous things into your body.
Yeah, well, I think that in the UK we haven't used it for many years. I'm not sure what the properties or what the benefits of the properties of that are. But I mean, there's things to do things to improve storage, stop these vaccines going bad, and so on. Maybe that's involved with that. I don't know. And there's another one coming from Paul Camish for £5. Yes, if we get hot temperature today, it'll take 800 years to see the effect in sea temperature. Yeah, basically, as I said, if you took an iceberg, Kyle, and you waggled a candle underneath it, you are applying heat, but you're not going to change the temperature of that iceberg. You are changing the temperature of that iceberg, but you're not going to be able to measure it.
There's a big difference between a candle and the sun. So
Yes, but there's a big difference between an iceberg and the whole flipping ocean. I mean, how deep's the deepest ocean? 6, 7 miles of water that's down at pretty much zero. I don't know. Let's find out. Just so we know the temperature of. Let's see. Is Mariana Trench, isn't it? Yes, spelt it rightly as well. That's good. 1 to 4 degrees centigrade in the Mariana Trench. So there you go. It's just going to take a long time to warm that up. There's a lot of water. A lot of water. Wow. Look, I did say about bringing some people in, Kyle. Yeah, if you're all right with it. They're people that I know, so I'm not expecting any problems, okay? And just a heads up to those people in the waiting room. Like I said, I don't expect any issues. If there are, Kyle is the guest, and after a warning, you will get removed. Okay, but I don't think that will happen. So let's bring them in. We've got Mr. 42, we have Mitch, and we have Captain Welshie. Good evening, guys. Hello.
Punchman! Love that show.
Oh, hey, good evening.
Good evening, 42. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I didn't expect to end up here right now.
No one expects a Spanish Inquisition.
Hey, Mr. S, what's cooking?
Well, with my aircon off, it's me. Yeah. How you doing, Mitch, and how's Julie?
Everybody's well, Mr. Sensible. Hope your family's well. I'm listening to this extremely interesting conversation you've been having.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Kyle knows that I'm going to disagree with him. He knows that.
That's okay.
But we can have a pleasant conversation about it. No need to bicker about who killed who. Oh, just before you guys sort of get started on Kyle or talk to Kyle, I have got another super chat just coming, so I'll just read that. It's from Mr. Brian Pop Robson, and he super chatted £5 saying, "What sun, Kyle? The holographic local one or the one 93 million miles away?" I don't know if Kyle believes in the holographic local sun.
No.
Any comments on that, Kyle?
I don't believe the sun is 93 million miles away, and I don't see any evidence saying it's a holograph.
Okay. All right, guys, have at it. Nicely.
It's the simulation, or the Flat Earth simulation group of Flat Earthers. Yeah, they're the ones who believe in that.
Oh,
As far as I'm aware.
oh, damn.
So, Mitch, 42, Welshie, the whole business about the tides and that, the discussion I've been having with Kyle. I mean, I was trying to explain about the moon and the spring tides and the neap tides and that, and someone did make a comment. I realised I was making a bit of a hash trying to explain it all on the fly. So if I made any errors, my apologies. Those errors are mine. But I don't know if there's any clarifications or additional explanations you might give to Kyle that might clear things up.
One of the things that seems to confuse flat earthers the most is the size of the Earth. They think that the Earth is kind of biggish, like if you have to walk to the chemist type of big, but they have no comprehension of how big the Earth really is. They just, for whatever reason, they just can't comprehend the enormity of the Earth. I find
Flat
that
Earthers think the Earth is bigger than the globe Earthers do.
Well, I'm not so
adult
sure.
talk.
I would think that's a big... Sorry, go on, you carry on.
And that's the reason why we have this whole tangential nonsense about solar heating of the ocean, is because flat earthers can't comprehend how large and deep the oceans are. They might
Our oceans are bigger than your oceans.
No, your oceans. Where's your map, dude? Show me your map of the ocean.
take a look at the Gleason map. The Southern Ocean is way bigger. It's like twice the size of the Globe Earth Ocean.
Can I suggest you probably don't want to go there, Kyle?
Yeah, really, dude, not with me.
That's
dude.
one example. I've got a lot of old examples than the Gleason map. The Gleason map is just a really popular map.
Dude, your conic projections are just a freaking joke. You don't even understand the map that you claim is more correct than a globe. You don't understand where it came from.
So you're
don't
saying
understand
that
where
the UN logo is a conic projection? I don't. Saying it looks like a
UN
cone.
logo is a conic projection. Did you hear me correctly? The UN logo
conic
is
projection.
conic. Do you know what a
like
cone is?
Like a cone. Yeah, I know what a cone is.
Okay. So it is a picture of what the globe Earth looks like from over the North Pole if you extrapolate the lines of sight around the edges of the globe. That's why Antarctica looks weird. That's why Greenland looks too small. That's why things in the southern hemisphere are incredibly out of proportion.
Well, that's
and they
a cone is a three-dimensional object, right?
They don't know. A map is a two-dimensional object, but you cannot map a three-dimensional object onto 2 dimensions. So you have to use what is known as a projection. And a projection is a way of unpeeling, as it were, the surface off of the globe and attempting to make it flat in a way that makes it consistent. There are some ways that will make it more consistent than others. The Mercator projection is a poor projection. It really does not show the proportions correctly. The conic projection does not show proportions correctly because the Earth is a globe.
The thing is, Carl, any map that is on paper or on a screen flat is going to have distortion. So there are different maps that are more useful under different circumstances.
You keep saying conic, but a cone is the three-dimensional object, and so I can't say it's a conic projection unless it's flat. Or sorry, unless it's a three-dimensional object.
Imagine that you are looking down over a sphere. From the top of the sphere, you are going to see a circle, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that is a conic projection. Your eyeball is the tip of the cone. The end of the cone is the circle of the Earth, the equator. It is a cone.
I know what you're trying to say.
That is why it's a conic
I know what
projection.
you're trying to say.
Okay.
I know what you're trying to say. Yeah.
Geometry.
I have to giggle a little bit about that. I'm sorry.
But I do
What's funny about it? I'm dying to know. What's funny about a conic projection?
It's just that you're talking about a three-dimensional object on a two-dimensional surface.
Right. And
I think that's funny.
Correctly, according to the way mathematics work, that in order to make a two-dimensional image of a three-dimensional object, you have to look at it from some perspective, and you have to twist reality just a little bit. You have to flatten some bits out, you have to expand some bits, and you have to contract some bits in order to make it. But here's the thing. At
it's like
the
our maps
size
of China.
the Earth, hang on, dude. At the size of the Earth, there's no utility in making a map of the Earth. Because at the size of the Earth, what's the use of a map? We use maps for local navigation. Those are flat-ish because the scale of a map typically has such a slight curve to it that it doesn't figure into the calculations on a typical map that you would use for driving or even airplane navigation.
Well, Kyle,
the Earth is that big that it just doesn't matter at that small size.
Kyle, on my screen in Discord, you can see a Lambert conformal conic projection. So it does help you to picture it more. And you can imagine you join those two edges, you're going to stretch the outside vastly.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Just like the flat Earth people with their 8
inches per mile per 8 inches per mile squared.
Mile nonsense. This is the same problem. A cone is a three-dimensional object that does not match the reality of the Earth, a sphere. So you're always going to have some error. Anytime you use this, and this is a different type of conic projection, it uses a different angle than looking straight down. Instead of looking straight down, we're looking, well, right there at old Blighty, I guess, is in the center.
Well, yeah, of course it is. Of course, it's the centre of the universe, so mate.
But here's what it is. It's a conic projection from another perspective that shows better information at the center of the map as you get further away from it. I mean, look how big on that map. Look how big Indonesia is. Indonesia is the size of Russia on this projection because it's so far off. And look, Australia is larger than North America on this projection because of the way the projection distorts.
The only way to get
I've done some videos about Australia, and I came to actually acknowledge the imperfections with the Gleason map. Yeah, I've did some videos about Australia.
By definition, if you've got a globe, the only way you can accurately map that surface is on a globe. Anything else, you're going to get a distortion. Now, I mean, you think of the typical flat Earth, the typical flat Earth map that we all know and love. In the northern hemisphere, between the North Pole and the equator, it's generally not too bad. It's when you get beyond the equator, everything gets really distorted, and the further south you go, the worse and worse it gets. Of course, you could take a projection based on the South Pole, and that would be the other way round. There's all sorts of projections, aren't there? It's just take an orange and unpeel it and try and lay it flat. You'll never get it to lay flat unless you hammer it flat and you've distorted things. That's just the way it is.
According to my understanding, map projections used by the U.S. Geological Survey, the Gleason map, 1892. Lord knows we haven't learned anything since then. The Gleason map is a commonly used conic projection for which the relative size of objects on the projection are more accurate at the center, and due to conic distortion, become more and more distorted toward the edges of the map. For this reason, it is not used for navigation.
Well,
so much for your map, son.
Well, I've just found a bunch of different. You probably do better to watch it on the main screen when it comes through. Different projections of the different map projections of the globe Earth, and you can see there's always distortion. More or less in different areas to a greater or lesser extent. It's just the way it is, because you cannot lay the surface of a globe flat. Simple as that.
I never made that claim.
No, I know you didn't. But the one thing you can do with a flat Earth is you could make a lovely and perfectly accurate map. Only no flat Earth has ever done it. Again, Kyle, just so you other guys are aware, Kyle is not on here to be bashed. He's kindly agreed to come on just to chat. So this is not any formal debate with any preparation or anything like that. We're just chatting, okay? So no, you haven't made any claims that I've heard about it, Kyle. I don't quite know how we got on.
I just sent you a flat Earth map from 1514. Flat Earth Banjo, Japan, USA. He shared this recently. I thought it was really neat to be able to see this. From 1514.
Right,
from that enlightened age, 1514, almost 500 years ago. Before
that sounds like chronological snobbery.
Before space travel, before balloons.
Well, there you go, Mitch. There it is. I'm not quite sure what that's showing, though. Oh, I see. Yeah, I can see Africa. Obviously, it's an incomplete map. Yeah.
They hadn't explored everything back then, but
no, and that's
I thought it was really fascinating.
It is fascinating. I mean, you can recognise the shape of Africa. You can see Madagascar, but of course, there's nothing down towards the pole. And if you went from the Horn of Africa eastwards, that distance would not equate to what it actually is to get round to South America. Yeah, as Mitch said, that's 1500 whatever, and I think that's probably an immense, what's the word? immensely difficult task, and they've done an amazing job based on what they had, with the tools they had, the ships they had, and so on. That is amazing. They did the best they can, but I think it's fair to say we may have improved on that a little since.
500 years ago, I will concede that's a pretty good map.
Yeah.
For 500 years ago, but it's not. It's now the 21st century, Kyle. I
never claimed it was. I said it was from 1514.
So that's the 16th century. That's 5 centuries ago. And
I think it's really cool. I'm saying that there's not
one or two things since then.
And so I'm saying that there's more maps out there than just the Gleason map. That's how I'm sharing it. It's something interesting. That's it.
Well, what about this map indicates that the world is flat?
Well, any kind of drawing doesn't really indicate any kind of shape. It doesn't prove anything. It's just an illustration. I've had this conversation several times before with people that I can't just.
Well, but I can easily show you in glorious detail every single detail of the Earth with complete accuracy. You know how I can do it?
Except for China.
You know how I can do it? Easily?
Oh.
I can get a globe. And I can use that globe to make predictions about the Earth, to make accurate measurements about distances between cities, to calculate how long it will take to travel, to know the length of day, to know the length of the night, to know the sunrise and sunset, to know when seasons will change, to know when eclipses will occur. Tell me what the Gleason map. Tell me what the Gleason map can predict. Tell me what the Gleason map can predict. It can't predict the distance. It can't predict the distance from Tierra del Fuego to Singapore because it has it about 3 times as far as it really is.
And so you acknowledge here that a flat Earth map, the flat Earth world, is a lot bigger than the globe Earth.
You realize that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, Kyle.
Not bigger, distorted.
So you don't understand how the flat Earth world is bigger than the globe Earth world? You don't.
Well, the
don't
thing
think
is,
that makes any sense?
I think you need to turn that round a bit, Kyle. Yes, according to the map, it's bigger, but then when you take that actual flight or sail the actual trip, it turns out it really isn't that big. You know, if you travel from Australia to...
Now we're shifting topic into plane flights and
whatever means, whether you're walking, driving, flying, whatever, the point is you're saying that the flat Earth is bigger. Yes, according to that projection, it looks bigger. Some of those distances look vast, 3 times what they should be. But when you actually take those journeys, it actually
Antarctica itself, it's a lot bigger on the flat Earth. You can't argue that Antarctica is going to be a lot smaller on the flat Earth than it is on the globe Earth.
Yeah, on those flat Earth maps, it's 26,000 miles round or whatever the circumference is. Only when you sail around Antarctica, it's nowhere near that. I will say, I've got, just jumping back to temperatures, there is a super chat from David Vosnitsa. Sorry, David, I'll try my best. For €5. Going back to the heat. Suggestion, put a heat lamp, Kyle, above a full bathtub and tell me how quickly the bottom temperature changes. I mean, that's a good point, because, of course, any heat you apply will tend to stay towards the top, not touching the bottom, or not for a very long time.
I don't recall ever making any kind of claims about the ocean bottom.
No, we were talking... No, but I said about the volumes of water, so the oceans... that heat will percolate down, but it takes a long time. It's all to do with the scale and the heating of the oceans. Look, guys, I'm very conscious that we just got Kyle in here by himself, and he didn't come in here ready for a fight. He came in here for a nice friendly chat. So let's make sure we keep it like that, because it's interesting.
I'm sorry. I'm having a lot of fun here. I never expected someone to say that the flat earthers don't comprehend how big the world is, even where our world is bigger than your world. I'm sorry, that just is really funny to me.
I don't mean to say you don't think you know how big the world is. I'm telling you it's bigger than you think it is. And I'm telling you, the ocean is deeper than you think it is, and the moon is further away than you think it is, and the sun is further away than you think it is, because
That's exactly what we say to the globe earthers.
you do not understand or comprehend the scale of the planets and the sun. You just don't comprehend it. If you would,
I
you
100%
say
agree with
anything.
you. I 100% agree with you. I don't understand that.
But here's the
I'll
thing,
give you a
dude.
high five right now. Yeah, I don't know how big the world
I can
is.
use a stick and a watch to prove that the sun is millions and millions of miles away. I can
Assuming
use a
straight
stick-
lines. Assuming straight lines. I get
What
that.
the hell does that mean? Assuming straight
Whoa.
line.
Okay. You're going to use a stick in the sun. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you going to? You're going to try and triangulate this, right? Can you make a triangle with
Yeah.
curvy lines? You're telling me that you're going to do your triangulation with curvy lines?
So are you saying that light curves? Kyle?
Yes, it does curve. And
You're
on
saying
your own
light-
model, it curves.
You're saying the light between the sun and the earth, when it hits me right now, my face, you're saying that light is being curved.
Light is being curved.
By what?
Oh, there's something called Snell's law. And Snell's law has to do with the things that cause light to curve. And this is going to be caused by varying amounts of density in the air or in water or in whatever.
Okay.
Light can curve.
Let me hang
okay?
on.
And so,
I'm glad you brought Snell's law up, because it's something that you're proving that you really don't understand what Snell's law is. What Snell's law is it's the rule that you use to figure out for any particular substance, when you shine light at a particular angle, what will the angle be refracted by? That's Snell's law. So whatever you said it was is not Snell's.
you can't remember what I said, and yet you say I didn't get it because you can't remember what I
But
said.
here's the thing: when I have light that let's just say you're right, and it is Snell's law. The light coming out of there isn't curved, Kyle. The light is still traveling in a straight line. It's just bent by the change of surface from one density to another density. The light is still in a straight line.
You're saying that the light is curved, but it's in a straight line. So it's.
I'm not. You said light is curved. I say light is curved, but not in this
A straight line.
Not in this place. In our little local area, we can consider the light coming from the sun to effectively be in parallel lines, because the sun is real big. And it puts out a tremendous amount of energy in all directions. So many directions, in effect, that the net effect of being this far away from the sun is that the photons approach us at pretty much parallel lines. The amount of deflection is so small, it's not really even measurable. That we treat them as parallel lines for all intents and purposes. And yes, I can take a stick it in the ground. If I had a compass or a watch, I can prove to you with simple geometry, with nothing more complex than simple trigonometry that you might learn in perhaps 8th or 9th grade, that will prove to you that the sun is immensely far away.
I just barely referenced my Eratosthenes is wrong. That was my very, very, very first flat Earth video I ever made. Was Eratosthenes was wrong, and I went in through and I described exactly how he was wrong, and I talked about how even on the globe Earth model he's wrong, because on the globe Earth model they claim that the sun spits out a whole. Well, I'm talking right now. Let me talk. Right. On the globe Earth model, they say that the sun spits out tons and tons of it's called solar wind. And these gases and particles that it's continually spitting out, okay, that all can refract the light, and it's spitting it out at inconsistent rates, okay, at varying densities, all throughout the universe.
What's interesting, Cal? What's really fascinating, and one of the reasons I'm enjoying talking to you, honestly, is because as I hear you talk about these things, you're bringing out little tiny fragments of the truth. The problem is you don't understand the context in which you're bringing them up. So you're absolutely right. There is such a thing called the solar wind. That is a real thing. Those are streams of ions and other particles that the sun shoots out in all directions, and it does affect Earth. As a matter of fact, there was one, quite a large one today. As a matter of fact, there was one that was off the charts today. But what you need to understand, Kyle, is the solar wind does not affect the light that comes from the sun. It has.
So you're saying that solar?
Let me finish.
You're saying solar wind? Okay.
Let me finish up. I'm saying yes. The solar wind does not affect the light from the sun. And here's how I know this. And if you want to look into this, you'll see why. A comet has two tails, right? It has a light tail and an ion tail. And the reason why a comet has two tails is because of that very reason. Those two types of energy do not interact.
So,
and I'll let it be
tails are one of the things I brought up in my video about how Eratosthenes is wrong. Is you're saying that solar wind is so sparse that Snell's law has no effect. Even over 93 million miles away, Snell's law has no effect.
I would like to just point out one.
So
I would like to point out one thing. You're talking about refraction. Was that right? Possible refraction of the sunlight due to the solar radiation, solar wind.
Yeah, through solar wind. If solar wind exists, it should refract the light that passes through it.
Well, we know solar wind exists. You can see it at the aurora borealis, the aurora australis. But what I was going to say was that solar wind, apart from where it's deflected by our magnetosphere, is going straight. It's ejected from the sun and then streams out straight. You were correct in what you said. It varies, as in sometimes you get a mass ejection or basically a solar storm. Other times it's calmer, but there's always something. But those particles, those ions and whatnot, are going straight. There's nothing to turn them.
So you're saying that the ions and gas particles that are being emitted by this solar wind, they're also hitting the Earth in parallel lines, just like the sunlight itself. That's what you're claiming.
That is correct.
But they will be. Okay. I mean, our magnetosphere protects us. It will. At that point, they're bent by our magnetic forces. The ones in our immediate vicinity.
The ionic ones are, not the light ones. The light ones are not affected.
Yes. And then that's where you get
comet tails and that whole claim. Sorry.
Well, comet tails. You get the dust tail, which does not point exactly
it's said
away
to be
from
caused by solar wind.
Yeah, it's blown by solar wind.
That's been my big argument.
But
that's my big argument in my video, is that if comet tails are caused by solar wind, then that's telling us that it's dense enough to create that. Does that make sense? And so you're saying it's so dense it can't affect refraction, but it is dense enough to create comet tails. And so that was one of my really big points that I made in my video.
They're not the same thing. In order to modify light, okay, you need two things, okay? You need some sort of refracting thing, like a change in surface, as in Snell's law, or let's just simplify it and say a magnifying glass. I can use a magnifying glass to change light. I don't bend it. I change it in such a way where the incident and refracted angles are different, and because of that, I can use it for magnification and stuff.
Okay, you're changing the path, and so I cannot. That happens because the magnifying glass has a varying density in the center as it does on the outer edge.
Correct. Spot on. Well done. But I can point a stream of ions at that magnifying glass, and it will not be affected. It will not magnify the ion stream. In order to magnify an ion stream, I need to use powerful electromagnets like the ones that are used in particle accelerators. Because
I never made any kind of claim about refracting the ions themselves. I'm talking about the light getting refracted.
But here's the thing: photons are not electroactive, not in the same way that ions are. They do not affect. The solar wind does not affect the optics of the light that comes from the sun. There is effect from the atmosphere, but not from the solar wind. They don't interact. Just like we are bombarded by 900 trillion neutrinos a second from the sun. but we don't interact with those neutrinos. They pass right through us like we're not even there. We know they're there. We can measure them. We can experimentally verify
I
the
actually
energy that needs to
I
be-
actually used neutrino detectors to prove that the Earth is not flat. I can't prove it's a globe, but I can prove that the Earth is not flat because you get several types of neutrinos. You get what is it? Tau, muons,
Yeah.
and I forget the other. Is the other called neutrons? Yeah, neutrons, tau, and muons, I think.
So-
and they pass through everything, as Mitch said, trillions through your
Muons,
thumbnail every
muons.
second.
Yeah.
Okay, so
muons and
Mitch
tau.
is saying that ions don't refract light. Okay, but solar wind isn't just made out of ions. It's also made out of helium. It's also made out of oxygen, carbon, nitrogen,
No,
oxygen,
no,
neon,
no,
and magnesium.
No.
Okay,
The
so you're
solar
saying
wind is
BBC
not.
science is wrong?
Solar wind is just charged particles. It's alpha particles, beta particles,
All right.
gamma rays. There's no
Okay.
oxygen. There's no carbon dioxide. There is no ozone. There's no air, no components of air, no nitrogen in the solar wind. The solar wind is a particle stream. As a matter of fact, calling it wind was a really terrible name because it's really just about nothing like wind.
Yeah, but you know,
It is a constant, relatively constant stream of ionic particles
The thing-
that are produced by the sun fusion
the
reaction.
thing is, Mitch, it does come out, as you said, in a constant stream that varies at times, but you can use it like the wind with a light sail.
That is correct.
And
With
so then,
something that
I mean,
interacts
the
with
analogy,
ions.
the analogy of tacking
Right.
and being basically blown along by it makes you think of wind. I know
But you
what you mean.
would need to do that. You would need to have something that interacted with the beta, British people, radiation, and those electrons that are constantly streaming out from the sun. If you had a solar sail which interacts with electrons, then yes, you would have interaction. But from photons, not so much. Photons they're a different type of particle. They're much higher energy. They're traveling much faster than the solar wind, infinitely faster. They're traveling at the speed of light. The particles coming from the sun are coming out pretty fast, but they're not quite speed of light fast. We know that because they do get here. So we know they have some mass to them, which means the quantum arrival can occur. But yeah,
I just sent Mr. Sensible a picture
that
here.
just don't interact. They don't interact.
So
I
you
just
said,
sent Mr. Sensible a picture here of a link from BBC Science that
Okay.
was saying what solar wind is, and you very much appear to be directly challenging,
let's have a look.
disagreeing
Let's
with
have a
BBC
look.
Science.
Let's have a look. Let me just get that up. There we go. And just in case you can't read it, the solar wind is a stream of energetic particles ejected by the sun. These include electrons and protons from hydrogen, along with atomic nuclei like helium, otherwise known as alpha particles. There are also traces of heavy ions and atomic nuclei of carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, neon, and magnesium.
Well, when they say trace here, okay, you have to understand you're talking about trace being maybe 1 in a trillion particles of leftover garbage from previous supernovas that are sitting in the core of the sun. I agree that they may be there, but they are so small and so infrequent and so occasionally occurring in the solar wind that they are not in sufficient amount to affect a photon stream. And
Yet somehow they were able to be detected. Okay, they were detected
They
first
can be-
because
they can be detected because of their spectrum, not because of.
Well,
so first off, someone detected them. That's why they're making the claim, right? Unless they're just
Vandegraaff,
totally
right.
making that up. And so someone
Vandegraaff.
detected them.
Yeah.
well, I've got a couple of super chats I'd like to read. A Madman super chatted £5. Thank you, A. I can find north with a watch. Explain on a flat Earth. and Oxidator.
Can find.
Yeah, sorry, go Carl, go on.
I'm just thinking of like ending north with a watch. I hope he's not following his like minute hand around like Winnie the Pooh did.
No, I seem to remember when I was a kid. I can't remember how to do that now. But when I was a kid, I knew. I think you take the halfway point between the 12 and the hour, and that points north. If you point one of them at the sun, something like that, isn't it? And it will actually, correct. Yeah, indicate north.
Bisect the angle, and you got north.
There we go. Thank you. Gosh, that's going back a bit from when I was in Scouts.
It only works in like our part of the northern hemisphere. As you get into the other hemisphere, it's going to be a little difficult to find north that way. But it'd be hella easy to find south.
And also another super chat from Oxidator, a new name. Thank you, Oxidator. Appreciate it. For 10 Swiss francs, I think that is. Or chuff nuggets. 10 chuff nuggets, I'm not sure. Saying sailboat races around Antarctica would take much longer on a Gleason-shaped Earth than the 72 days it took Catharsis 2 in 2018. So yeah,
it really depends on wind speeds and currents, and there's a lot of different factors that you really got to take into account that no one ever takes into account. They just make these claims and say, "Oh, that's going to be the case."
Well, certainly on your Gleason map, if that was your flat Earth map, yes, the flat Earth would be a lot longer distance. But they actually sailed round it. It took them 72 days. That's a hell of a difference in wind. You'd need winds 3 times the speed and so on to get 3 times the distance in that time.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different factors. Like I said, there's wind, there's the currents themselves, and we're trying to make an accurate map based off of these things. Back in like the 1500s, for example, that's kind of crazy when it comes to trying to measure it with just
globes
dead reckoning.
They had globes back then too. It didn't take them long to figure out that the globe was the right shape. The flat maps were only used for convenience because you can roll up a map. You can't roll up a globe. It's not convenient for carrying around.
Actually, Kyle, this is a change of speed and slight change of topic. Bearing in mind that Richard Branson with Virgin Galactic went up to whatever height it was, 50 miles was it? Not the internationally recognised point of space, but certainly very high. If we run a GoFundMe and paid for a ticket and you went on there and you go up to that height and you see the curve, what would you do? What would you say if you just come back from Richard Branson's flight and seen that curve?
Well, I'd probably think the same thing as I thought about your Mage project, and I told you about that, and so probably what I'd be thinking.
Well, yeah, but what are you? Sorry, I know that there were issues about talking about lighting and stuff with those photographs, but we're talking about you looking out a window.
I don't see why me looking out a window would be any different from me looking out the camera of your Mage project.
But because it's a window, and I know people have sort of said, "Oh, these windows are distorted," but then if you moved your head, the distortion should change. You should soon find out if it's.
Oh, your Mage project did a really good job at ruling out distortion, did it not?
Yes, I believe so.
So why would that be any different?
Very good job.
Yeah,
I think it did an excellent job. And that's why I said if I'm not pointing out the window and it's saying that the window's distorting it, and if that isn't, so I'm not going to think any different than I did from your Mage project.
Yeah, well, I know that you've not made any claims about that, but I know that a lot of flat earthers do say things like the windows are distorted and so on. But I basically just wondered how. I mean, because you would expect, I think, to see the Earth being flat, just a further distance. But they sort of said that they could see curvature. So assuming that they're not lying, if you went up there and then you looked out that window and you saw curvature, I just wondered how would you sort of be shaken to your very foundations? Would you reject it?
When I saw curvature on your Mage project, did that shake me to my very foundations?
No, but it's a bit different when you see it with your own eyes. Yeah, I just wondered.
I might be able to make some further observations.
You want more trips up there?
I'd like to make some further observations and look for some additional things to say, oh, okay. But yeah, just seeing curvature didn't really prove anything for me because, there's still other factors that were involved. And so I made my video about disconfirming evidence. And so I'd look for those disconfirming evidences. And that's going to be my main objective of going up there. And so if I can...
Sorry, Mitch?
Yeah.
I never heard that word before, disconfirming. Can you tell me what it means?
Disconfirming evidences are evidences that would prove me wrong.
Okay.
So these are conditions that must be met in order to prove me wrong. And I've got a video that talks about exactly what conditions those are.
I got to head out, Kyle, and I really have enjoyed listening to you and talking to you. And thank you so much, Mr. Sensible, for letting me run amok.
Yeah, well, as I said, it's turned into the Mitch Goldstein show.
It was fun. Idea. Problem with Mitch Goldstein shows, Mitch only has 3 followers, and they're all living here with him, so they don't have to tune in to hear me rant. I want you to just think about something, Kyle. Just think about something next time you have some time. The sources which tell you that there's something wrong with the model of how things are, the globe, the model that we can use reliably to predict a vast of so many phenomena, I'm not even going to list them, is not incompatible with any system of belief whatsoever. If you understand that those things were written even before your map was made and before Eratosthenes, and the Bible is tremendously old. There's nothing in the Bible. I am a Torah scholar. There's nothing in there that says the earth is flat. Nothing
Jewish?
Whatsoever.
Just
You want to see?
Mitch, I don't think you call that. Kyle,
please come to visit my debate board. I do not get enough people in my religious section, and if that's a topic I would love to jump into.
You're welcome to DM me right here on Discord. I'm not hiding from anybody. I can tell you, by and large, religious Jewish people who study the Torah intensely in its original language do not see a problem with
there's a lot of people.
Let me finish. The religious interpretation of creationism and the factual reality of the solar system. As a matter of fact, I know a number of very religious Orthodox Jewish scientists who are geologists, who work for NASA. They don't believe the literal mistranslation of the Torah that says that the earth must be flat, but that was what God intended. That's not what they believe. It's not what I believe. Think about it sometime. Think about
I'd love to engage more with you on this.
Otherwise.
The Bible is not the whole thing for me on the flat earth. That's not my big flat earth foundation kind of a thing. And so I like to look into it for the science of it.
Mr. Sensible, thank you so much.
My pleasure, Mitch. And say hi to Julie, won't you?
I sure will. Good night, everybody. Thanks a lot. Talk to you all soon. Good night, Kyle.
Good night.
Hey, I've got to do a video sometime about does the Bible prove the earth is flat?
Well, that'll be... Yeah. Well, I mean,
that'll be a great video topic.
It could well be, and I'm sure that will hold a lot of interest. I'll be honest, Kyle, and say that's not something that particularly interests me, because to me personally, the Bible, the Torah, and religious texts mean nothing. But I appreciate it does mean a lot to other people. So yeah, go ahead, knock yourself out.
Yeah. Well, I have a hard time. I love talking religion, but it's hard for me to find other people who enjoy talking religion with me. And so that's my big challenge. And so even I just did a religious video the other day, and I lost 7 subscribers because of it. And so it's a unfortunate thing. So.
Yeah. The thing is, you will lose some people who either don't like what you're talking about or just disagree with you. But I suppose you could pick up other people who are interested in that. It's just not I'm interested in creationism versus the scientific explanation. I'm interested in people claiming, the whole thing about Noah and about evolution and stuff like that. I find that of interest, but as specific topics. But religion as a whole, I don't have particular interest in. But as I said, I know a lot of people do, and although I disagree, I'm not knocking them. That has to be. I can't disprove your God. And there's only one difference between me and you, Kyle. That there's about 4,000 odd gods. You don't believe in 3,999 of them. I've just gone one god further.
Yeah, I've heard that one before.
Yeah. Okay. Right, we've still got 42 in it. We've got Triple Crow. Sorry, hello, Triple Crow. Are you in here? No, he was sat in a waiting room for a long time. And Captain Welshie, you've not said much, my friend.
Oh, no, I've just, with mixing here, I have to, talk.
And I did see your comments on about the Simon Dan collab. I appreciate that. I really do.
Oh, no problem.
Hey, Miss Sensible, this is Triple Crow. I couldn't find the unmute button.
Oh, hi, Triple Crow. Hello. Although you've got some voices in the background there. Oh, I don't know what's happening there. Well, listen, guys, it's just gone 11:30 now. Although I don't have to get up at stupid o'clock, I do have to get up in the morning because I'm starting my set of shifts. So let's have just a final check to make sure I haven't missed anything. I've really enjoyed this, Carl, and I do appreciate you coming on.
It's been way fun.
Yeah, it being a good sport because, we pretty much know it's going to be you versus everyone else.
I get that. I'm used to that.
But I mean, it's one thing if we come to an organised debate arguing about something specific that you've researched, I've researched, you've got your evidences, I've got my. That's fine. But this is pretty much an ad hoc chat and see where it goes. So I'm very conscious of that, and I wouldn't want you to put you in an uncomfortable position.
I really appreciate your respect. That's why I'm always more than willing to come back to, because
Brilliant.
I know that you'll treat me fairly.
Brilliant. But although if we actually have another formal debate, I will try and rip you to shreds on whatever it is. Okay, and no doubt you'll try and do the same the other way, and that's cool. Right. What I'll do, guys, I'll chuck you back into the live waiting room, and wind up the stream. Okay. So although Triple Crow, who's there, and she didn't get a chance to say much. I'm sorry. Try again for the next one. I'm not sure. Problem. Yes. Well, I'm not sure when my next stream is because almost all my shifts this week are going to be late. Even my two earlies finish at 7 p.m, which isn't much fun. So it's going to be a bit of a tough one. I'm not sure when I'll be doing what. We'll see. So I'll move you over into the waiting room. I'll join you in a minute, but you're welcome to stay as long as you want. So thank you, Triple Crow. Thank you, Captain Welshie. Thank you, Mr. 42, who wasn't even expecting to be in here. And Kyle, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it too.
Okay,
I was able to get past my stuttering in the beginning.
Well, any stuttering is stuttering. That can't hold that against anyone. I actually occasionally can stutter. I sort of lock up. And I've certainly got a thing about forgetting a particular word. I know exactly what I mean, but I can't remember the word. There we go.
I was doing that earlier when I was talking about confirmation bias. I'm like, what is the word for confirmation?
Yeah. So, and I wouldn't hold that against you. Hey, any of us can forget a word or stumble over a sentence or whatever.
That's the hardest part about live shows.
It is.
Trying to be able to speak right and trying to articulate and think about what you're going to say in just the right timing. And so I always do a lot better when I'm going off of a script.
Sorry, Carl. Just before you do go, I'm glad I just saw this. Oxidator did send another super chat with a question for you, if you want to and if you're able to answer, for 5 Swedish francs. Kyle, please explain how to reach an average sailing distance of over 1,000 kilometres a day to do the 100,000 round trip in 72 days. Just complete nonsense.
That's a great topic for a video. I'd like to revisit that topic later.
Why don't you do that? Or perhaps, why don't you have a look at that and see if there is a video to be done talking about circumnavigating Antarctica?
Because I know we've had some flat earthers who were sailors who actually did the races with that. And
Oh, well, that would have been interesting. I'd like to have heard that. Anyway, listen, thank you very much. I'll pop you into the waiting room. Colon's there. Welshie and 42 are still there. Okay. And I'll be there in a minute.
Thank you.
Very welcome. Thanks, Carl. Thank you. And I do mean that. I really, really appreciate Carl coming in here. It was pretty much last minute. I mentioned it to him about an hour and a half beforehand because he had commented on the tides things. And I just knew that Flatsoid FE would not have the balls to come in here, unlike Mr. Kyle Adams. So big props to you, Kyle, for that. And Flatsoid, had you come in, you would have been treated just as respectfully, providing you were being decent, like Kyle. And we could have had an interesting chat. Because your idea that I can never remember the name of it, the thermohaline circulatory flow is the cause of tides, is utter hogwash. And just saying, after being asked 20 times, just saying, I smashed you, that's not good enough. By all means, try and smash me. Smash me. Make me learn something new. But just saying you smashed me doesn't do it. Big fat fail, Flatsoid, and you had a chance. I had an invite at the top, a polite invite. Didn't take it up on me. And I know you're in here because you commented when the stream started and I had commented on one of your videos. On my video in response to you. There we go. Shame. So, let's get ready. I want, as always, to say massive thank you to everyone who's joined us tonight. Really appreciate it. It's been an enjoyable stream. We've had a chat about varying subjects from DARPA Hydrogel to 15th century maps. But you know, that's how we roll here. So thank you very much. Appreciate all the super chats, all the comments. Please tell people about the channel. Tweet it, Facebook it, Askbook it, Twitter it. And a like wouldn't go amiss over. Take care. Look forward to seeing you all. And big thanks, of course, to my members and patrons. Good night.
Mr. Sensible, Mr. Sensible, bring me some cheese, and get me only the best if you please, Here are some flowers, let me display them. Yea, Dr. Waller, you have gone all slay them. Mr. Sensible, you are a man. Every subscriber is a faithful fan. Bring your logic and your cheese. Mr. Sensible, help us out, please. Mr. Sensible, I needed proof of gravity, so I jumped off the roof. It took a lot, let me go further. Why was I ever such a dumb flat earther? Mr. Sensible, I'm such a clown. I am the laughing stock of the town. Bring your logic and your cheese. Mr. Sensible, help me out, please. Mr. Sensible, bring me a sphere, to which the waters of the oceans adhere, have explanations, but let me be candid. So clear